I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've just arrived at Mount Fuji, which is just behind me. Unfortunately, it's not very clear today as there's lots of cloud coverage, but we're here for the next 2 nights, so hopefully it will clear up a little bit before we leave. We personally rented a car to get to Mount Fuji from Tokyo, as this is a transport method which allowed us the most flexibility to visit what we wanted and when we wanted. You can rent a car to get to Mount Fuji, but another popular thing is to take the train as a day trip from Tokyo. Because of the cloud coverage, we've decided to check out a few other things to do in the area that don't involve seeing Mount Fuji. And the first thing we're going to check out is the ice cave. Actually 2 caves in the area. There's the ice cave, and then around 1 kilometer away, there's also the wind cave. Let's go down. The ice cave is actually one of over 100 caves in this area, and they're all created by sciencey stuff from Mount Fuji, but it's very rare to have such a prolific number of caves in a single area. Okay, so now we're out of the ice cave. There are a few things I have to note. The first is that you only really need 10 minutes to see the cave, so I wouldn't necessarily come out of your way to see it unless you have a car. The next is that it's way more slippery and more steep than I expected, so you do need good shoes, and I would say you probably need some sort of jacket because the cave remains between 0 and 3 degrees all year, so Antoine only wore a t-shirt and was kind of cold. Also, it's really not very big, so the souvenir shop is bigger than the cave. It turns out you can borrow a helmet if you want. We've just driven the 2 minutes it takes to reach the wind cave. This cave, at first glance, seems a bit more popular because there's way more people in the car park, so let's go and check it out. If you buy the combi ticket like we did, each cave costs 300 yen per person, which is about $3, I guess. If you visit each cave individually, it's 350 yen. And we also have the answer as to why the ice cave is much less busy, and it's because it's considered to be hard as a route, as opposed to this one where everyone is allowed. This area was also once used as a seed bank. I have to say that this cave is much easier to walk through, and it's more interesting if you're really into rocks, as you can see lots of different types of lava formations. With that being said, I really enjoyed the ice of the ice cave. I think it was way more beautiful and magical, although it's not for you if you're claustrophobic. We're going to try the corn flavoured ice cream now. We've acquired the corn ice cream. It actually smells like sweet corn. Unique. That huge mountain there is meant to be where Mount Fuji is. We've just arrived at Saiko Iyashi no Sato Nenba. It's a traditional thatched rooftop village in the shadows of Mount Fuji, which, as I said, we can't see, but we can enjoy the thatched rooftops. Will all be cherry trees in a few weeks. You actually have to pay 500 yen to visit the village. If you've watched our Kyoto day trips video, then you'll see that we've actually already been to a thatched village, and unfortunately this one so far does feel a little less authentic, but it's still beautiful nonetheless. The history of Nenba village is honestly quite sad. Up until 1966, there was a farming community here, and there were just over 40 houses. However, all of that changed when a giant mudslide happened and much of the village was washed away. Today, around 20 of the thatched roofed homes have been reconstructed and have been transformed into shops, galleries and museums. You can come here and do activities like figurine painting, going shopping for souvenirs and tasting local produce. So for a brief few moments we got to see Mount Fuji, and it's really funny because when we arrived at our accommodation earlier, our host told us that the weather often clears just for a few moments to let you see the top, and that's exactly what happened. We're staying in a traditional Japanese guest house, which means that we're going to sleep on these tatami on futons that we're going to prepare later tonight from this cupboard. It's so cute because outside of each of the rooms there's a little sign saying who's staying here. Obviously this one's our one and how many nights they're staying. All of the decoration in the room is pictures of Mount Fuji, and it's making me really want it to clear up outside. That is where the top of the mountain should be. You can't wear shoes in here, but there are little slippers at the entrance. If we want to prepare anything, then there's a small microwave and fridge. There's also this really cute communal guest area where you can sit and watch the mountain when it's visible. This is the shower area. And there are communal toilets for the 4 guest rooms that they have in this place. Cutest things about going to the toilet is that when you go here, there's slippers for the toilet. And of course, it's a traditional Japanese toilet. So there's all sorts of weird and amazing functions when you go to the bathroom. Also, we were told that we can drink the water here, and this sign says that it's subterranean water from Mount Fuji, which is really cool. We're on the opposite side of the building to Mount Fuji, but even these views are so beautiful. Our first morning in Mount Fuji, I actually set the alarm for 5 AM, but it was completely covered by clouds. However, it's now a few hours later and you can kind of see it a bit in the distance. At least the coffee is good. Welcome to Hirano Beach on Lake Yamanaka. Right behind me is usually a view of Mount Fuji, but it is still a very peaceful and tranquil spot, and the town behind me is a sleepy little town with lots of little cafes, and we're gonna go get lunch because we're a bit hungry. This sign unfortunately doesn't mean corgis in the cafe, but it does mean that pets are allowed here. We're now headed to the Asama Shrine, which is the main Shinto shrine in town. Now, Japan has 2 main religions, Buddhism and Shinto, and the main important caveat to notice is that most people practice both because neither religion demands their followers to follow just one religion. Gosh, this is so tranquil and peaceful. We're the only people here. Whenever you enter a Shinto shrine, you'll be greeted by a vermilion torii gate. Now, this is vermilion because it symbolizes life force and counteracting evil in the Shinto religion. The drain covers in each region of Japan have a different design, and here in Mount Fuji is swans in front of the mountain. Now it's time to drive to the next stop of the day, which is the garden. Honestly, I'm so glad we rented a car here because it means that we can go to way more places than you could go to on the tourist bus. I'd also say it's actually quite easy to drive here. The only thing that is a bit weird to get used to is that the indicator is on the right hand side rather than the left hand side of the steering wheel. Okay, let's go. We've just arrived at the Yamanaka Gardens, and often in the summer they look like this, but currently they look like this. Luckily, it's only half price to visit at this time of the year. So apparently all the really good flowers start in late April, but the good thing about coming at this time of the year is that despite not being able to see Mount Fuji or the flowers outdoors, there are some pretty lovely greenhouses which we're going to explore now. The Botanical Greenhouse is pretty beautiful, but only takes around 10 minutes to see, and so I wouldn't necessarily go out of your way to visit here during the off-season. We thought initially that all of these are completely real, but they're actually so amazing. They're fake and made out of cornstarch clay. We've just arrived at Oino Hakai, which is a set of 8 hot springs here in the Mount Fuji area. They're actually part of the Mount Fuji UNESCO World Heritage listing, and lots of them are filled with fish. There's also a few temples and shrines nearby to explore. I actually read that if you have polarized sunglasses, then it's easier to see through the water and see the fish. Even the toilet block here is aesthetic. The 8 crystal clear ponds are fed with melting snow from Mount Fuji. This is also a really good rainy day activity as there's so many aesthetic things to see, and I think that's why it's so busy. The theme of the place is definitely water. There's water mills, bridges, as well as the ponds. Unfortunately, a few people didn't listen to the sign. Since ancient times, Mount Fuji, or Fuji-san as it's often called, has been revered as a sacred place. If you want to learn more about the history of the area, then you can go to the museum. The local drain cover. This is how Oshino village looks in the snow. Since ancient times, people have been making pilgrimage to this top, and these 8 springs here are the place from which many people made their journey, as the springs are considered to be a place of purification. It's currently daffodil season here, which is kind of funny because in England daffodil season is in February. Sengen or Asama shrines are centered around worshipping the kami of the volcanoes, and more specifically often Mount Fuji. Now obviously we're in the Mount Fuji region, so the most common type of Shinto shrine here is dedicated to the kami of Mount Fuji, and we're going to go and visit one of those shrines now. This is the Kitaguchi Hongu Fuji Senjin Shrine, and it's one of the most important shrines here in the region. It's actually one of over 1,300 Asama shrines in Japan, so let's go and check it out. The whole shrine is nestled within a dense and historic forest, which is honestly so stunning and tranquil. Asama shrines are dedicated to the cherry blossom princess, and within the grounds of this particular shrine there are 4 trees which are believed to be over 1,000 years old. This wooden torii gate has roots dating back all the way to the 15th century and is 70 meters in height, making it the highest torii gate that's wooden in Japan. This shrine is also the start of the trail which leads up to the summit of Mount Fuji. We're now going to go to the place of origin of the shrine. It was then time to visit one of the most iconic places of Mount Fuji, the Chureito Pagoda. We're now en route to the Arakura Sengen Park, which is where the famous pagoda can be found. I think we'll be a bit out of breath going up all those stairs. The pagoda and surrounding park are completely free to visit, but can get pretty busy as it's one of the top things to do in the region. Overall, there are 398 steps to reach the iconic red and white pagoda. It says there's bears in this area. The 5-storied pagoda overlooks Fuji Yoshida City and provides amazing views of Mount Fuji, usually. Unfortunately, it was completely overcast on the day we visited, but we could still enjoy views of the city below and the beginning of the cherry blossoms. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel adventures. See you next time!